Well, hello there, Stacey Murphy here with a video about container gardens, raised bed gardens, the difference between the two, and why learning how to garden is really like learning a new language, and how when you begin to learn this language, when you're just getting started as a beginning gardener, and as you get more experience, when you master the language of gardening, your garden becomes so easy. It becomes so simple because you know exactly what to do. You know exactly what everything means. It takes a little time to get there, and I get that. So what I want to do in this video is share a story to show you how important this is. So my friend Cheryl, she went to the nursery, went to the plant store and the garden store, and she was so excited about her first garden. I mean, who wouldn't be? Here I've got a bouquet of celery around me, you know, fresh food, you know exactly how it's grown. Potentially you're growing outdoors. This is contributing to your long-term health. These plants are nutrient dense and great for our health, right? So she's so excited to do this and finally get this done. She's been wanting to do it for years. Goes to the garden center and basically goes in, says, okay, there's a guy who walks up to her and says, how can I help you? And she says, oh, I'm so excited. I'm starting a container garden. And he says, oh, okay. And he starts grabbing things and saying, okay, this is exactly what you need. And she's like, no, I don't think that's what I need. And he's like, yeah, this is what you need, and starts handing her bags of stuff. And she's like, I don't think that's what I need. And the rest of the conversation, what happened is that she started to doubt herself because she was brand new. She started to feel dumb, like she didn't know anything. And she wondered if what she came to buy was really what she was supposed to be buying. And it was a big purchase. It was hundreds of dollars. So there was money on the line. And oftentimes when we're investing, the first things when we go in to build our garden, it's the biggest investment we might make. And so it's important to get that decision right. So she walked away feeling a little dumb, a little worn out from the conversation, like of trying to figure out what was going on and why she thought she knew what was happening, and now it's something totally different. And she also felt sad because what was so fun, like 30 minutes ago was so fun, was now feeling overwhelming and confusing. And so she ended up leaving the store just feeling really frustrated, and she just didn't feel like she could go through with it. She's like, maybe this gardening thing isn't for me. And so that's an experience that I don't want people to have. So I wanted to share this story. So luckily for Cheryl, she came back to our garden community and people started asking her questions like, okay, what is it you're trying to do? And started digging in and basically, you know, helping her solve some of those questions that she had. And here's what happened is that when you go to a garden store, let's say, and you say to the person, I'm so excited, I'm going to start a container garden, right? So here's where I want to talk about container gardens and raised bed gardens, why they're different. So you go and you say, I'm starting a container garden, and instantly the person there, there's a difference between container gardens and raised bed gardens, and they say, okay, they put you in a bucket and they're like, okay, this is what you need. And so I just wanted to show you. So container gardens. So when you use the word container, oftentimes, and this might sound really basic, but in a moment you're going to see where it gets a little confusing. So a container might be something like this, a small container holding plants, and containers generally have a bottom. Now, having a bottom makes them different from a lot of other gardens, because what happens is when you have a container like this, or you might have a larger container like let's say something like one of these larger containers, or even like one of these kind of table containers, which are really large. When they have a bottom, there's a big difference. The type of mix that you fill those containers with is not soil. So when you're doing a container garden, you use a particular kind of potting mix or planting mix or seed starting mix, as the case may be. And so that's a word that triggers a series of decisions, all right? So that's one style of gardening. There's also raised bed gardening. And raised bed gardening sounds simple, but there's two different styles. And so it's important to understand which one you're doing so that when you're asking for garden help or garden advice or checking in to see if you're doing the right thing, that you know which one you are. All right, so for instance, most people, when I say raised bed gardening, they think of something like this. It's like a frame, and then inside is raised earth. And it could be filled with all kinds of different things. And this video is too short to go into all those details. But and generally that the material doesn't matter what the frame is built out of. It might be built out of wood. It might be built out of, I was trying to find another one. Yes, here we go. So it might be built out of wood and laid on your lawn. So those raised bed gardens, they are raised beds, and like I said, they can be 100 different things. It could be that there's logs inside of there with soil on top. It could be that it's soil with compost on top. It could be a mixture of lots of organic material all stacked up to decompose. Could be lots of different things. But here's the trick. The idea is that this raised bed, it doesn't have a bottom, right? So that's why you can use soil, because you're connected to the earth for the most part. And so the difference is that soil is heavier. So if you put soil in a container, it's too heavy, doesn't work so well. So container, raised bed. But here's the tricky part. Are you ready for this one? So a lot of people, when they think of raised beds, they think of what I just showed you. But a lot of times farmers, when they use the word raised bed, what they're talking about is more like this image here. And what that image represents is the idea that when you're growing food, you don't want to walk where you're growing food. So people will, in their large garden areas, they'll make pathways, and then they'll make raised beds. And the raised beds are literally just earth that's a little bit higher than where the path is. And that's also considered a raised bed garden. Some people make the distinction by saying that this style is in-ground raised beds, and that these are like wooden box raised beds. So you'll hear that distinguish the distinguish between those. So when you hear the words raised beds, don't assume that somebody has built something and that they're filling it. It might be that their garden looks like this. All right, so all of this to say that the language that we use is so important, and especially in gardening. Gardening is a language all of itself, and it can get technical. You can hear a word and think you know what it means, and it means something totally different, or it has two meanings, like in the case of raised beds. You can hear a word in context and realize that it means something else. Now, when you're just getting started, it can be confusing, and I totally get that. So what I want you to remember is that you will get this over time, and you'll look back at this moment later and you'll be like, oh, I remember when I didn't know what that meant, but now I know what that means. And gardening, you're going to notice that as you get to know the language, gardening becomes more simple and it becomes easier. Now, luckily, this story has a happy ending, because Cheryl, she had a support community, and that's so important in gardening, to have a support community around you. And so she came home, she went online to our private online Grow Your Own Vegetables forum. She asked us a bunch of questions, and we started to understand where there was a misunderstanding between her and the person at the garden store. And we helped her to see she was actually on track. She was going to buy all the right stuff if she had purchased what she thought she should purchase. And so she gained a lot of confidence in that questioning period. And so she basically went back. She got all the garden supplies she needed. She started her garden. She's been growing ever since. So it's a happy ending. And what I want you to take away from the story is that this is a language that's been passed down from generation to generation. Gardening has been passed down for thousands of years. And the language that we use is important. And as we learn to garden, as we learn the language of gardening, which is the language of plants, essentially, our gardens get simpler and simpler, and we can feel more confident that we're making good decisions, taking our next steps, and growing our most successful garden. And that's what I would love for you. You totally got this.